Closing sales part 2. Guys, closing sales is an art. Now, some people say, oh, you're a natural born closer. This, I think that's a bunch of horse hockey. I think some people are better at it than others, but I don't think it has to do with whether or not you have the gifted gab or this or that. I really don't. I think it's more that you are good at reading emotions. But closing a sale is a process that actually started when you were prospecting. The number one reason that a sale doesn't close is because of the salesperson's fear of hearing no. So most of you guys have probably felt this, but have you ever, nicely had a great conversation with someone, you get off the phone with them and you thought, that went so well, why didn't I close a sale? Like, it might irritate you because you're on the phone with people like, yeah, I see the benefit of this, it's really smart, blah, blah, but you're not closing the sales. And you're like, why in the world is that? Why can't I seem to close it? Ask yourself this question. Did you ask for the sale? And that doesn't mean saying, hey, will you buy this from me? That's not what I mean by that, because that could come out desperate. But asking for a sale can be subtle and it can be direct, but usually subtle closes make it much easier for direct. Now, we're not going to go into like doing trial closes because you guys already know what that is. That's where you get people to nod their head, say yes, by saying things like, right, you can see where I'm going, where you're asking these questions where they're saying yes. You guys have heard enough of that from, tons of other people and marketers out there. But aside from the trial closes, what are some methods that I currently use to close sales quickly? So I'm going to kind of go through these. So for me, it started when they scheduled their 15-minute appointment. Because although it doesn't seem very long, and it can go beyond the 15 minutes if needed, I want them to know that my time is valuable and that it's not a one-way street. I don't know if you guys have ever read the book Pitch Anything, but he kind of talks about it in there as well. He does 20-minute appointments, but he was saying that one of the things he'll do when he gets into an appointment is he'll say, hey guys, let's get right into it because I only got 20 minutes. What it does is it actually elevates your social status, which is huge. People buy from people because of their how successful they think they are. For instance, and I think I've said this before in other trainings, but if I'm selling something versus somebody you've never heard of and we're selling the identical thing, people will buy it from me because of social status online, of students who have raised me up with their testimonials, interviews with ClickFunnels, things like that, just the social status, even if it was the same product. And so what you have to understand is when you walk into a room, your energy, they have to feel that you are powerful and that you are at least equal, if not a little bit more successful than they are. You never want to feel like you are inferior to them. That is one of the things that will absolutely crush a sale. And so it starts right away with me saying, hey, I've only got 15 minutes for this call. Now, there's a few benefits of this. A, it's easier to get people to commit to 15 minutes, but also when people sit in a sales call, the thing that they're scared about is like, is this going to be taking forever? But when you say, hey, I only got 15 minutes, or hey, whatever, I got 20 minutes, whatever you feel comfortable with, at least now they know like, hey, I can, this is going to be fine. They're a little bit more relaxed about it. Now, one of the things that I find is that people move backwards in the sale. You don't want to move people backwards. You want to keep them moving forwards. And a good salesperson is always taking a little mental tally of where they're at, asking themselves, where is this person at in the sale? Because it will be eventually a natural instinct for you to know this. There's the different phases of the strategy call. Starts off with on the appointment, they were curious. And then when they hop on the phone with you, most people, and you should assume this because if they're not, you'll break through it regardless, but they're defensive. They hop on the phone, okay, what are you trying to sell me? What is this? Because if you think about it, our appointment setters, they initially got them in because they piqued their reptilian brain. And then as we learned last week, we hop on, we peak it again. But because this is so much adrenaline and you're bringing that emotion back, they kind of get defensive about it. Some people even get a little bit pissy. If you can get past the defensive stage, which I'm going to show you how to do, then you can get them in an agreeable phase where you guys are right on track with each other. They agree with what you're saying and you're building a foundation with them. But now, and this is where most people screw up, they get on the fence and this is where they never leave. So what happens is one of two things. They send off a proposal and that person goes into la la land, or number two, they actually get paid and they have a sold client. And so we'll go through each one of these things in a little bit greater detail. So let's talk about the defensive stage. So many, not everyone, but many people start off skeptical. Like I said, they're not sure what you're trying to sell them or if they really need the service, or at least that's what they're showing you. So what are the facts? If they were not interested, they would have not been on this call in the first place. They would have never been so intrigued by our cold caller script. This lets us know that they're interested. So let's just back up for a second. We don't just like throw scripts out there and say, hey, boom, this is what we're saying, and then they call it. Or we don't launch a Facebook ad and say, boom, let's just see if this works. We're methodical, right? So we take pain points in. What are the main pain points in life? Pain points are typically time and money. Those are two universal problems regardless of which niche you're in. Now, there are even more detailed pain points, but they always boil down to one of those. For instance, if you think about the Facebook ad that I did for chiropractors, if you went through the client acquisition funnels that work phase, there was I talked about Groupon, these chiropractors who are in Groupon, what are they doing, blah, blah, blah. So I was touching on a specific pain point that was kind of what you would call niched down. But in reality, what was the real pain point? Money. A lot of it came down to money, because these people who are using Groupon, they're losing money out the boohoo. And then also the people who are not using Groupon, the value of their service is getting diminished because of that. So when people respond to a very specific message that we've put out there, we know what they don't know. We know that, yes, they are interested. You might be putting up a defensive wall right now, but you would not be sitting on the other end of that phone call right now, gone through the phase, made a time for the appointment, showed up in your busy schedule if you didn't really want those extra 100 leads a month, VA loan leads. If you didn't really need them, you would have never hopped on the phone call with me. So now that we know that they need them, we need to get into a common ground with them. We need them to like us. You probably remember me talk about that in the strategy call back in the client acquisition mastery course. You really need them to like you, and then you can sell them something. So this is where you start the us versus them. It's an easy way to get people to like you, because by now, a lot of these people have had really bad experiences with digital marketers. I know Eric for sure. He's going through a conversation right now with the chiropractor. They've been going back and forth. This chiropractor says that, he's launched ads, this and that. He knows a lot of phrases, retargeting, things that digital marketers do. He's worked with, I think, 2 digital marketers or so, and they haven't been able to really give him sufficient leads, but yet he sees the value in the service because so many other people are running ads and they're seeing value in it, and he just can't seem to get the results. So this is where it comes in, where you do the us versus them. So this might seem like a weird time to do it. By approaching it right now, we can get them to agree on all these pain points that we know they already hate. And the way that we do it is we hate what they hate. Keep that in mind. If you're taking notes, write down, we hate what they hate. That immediately puts you on the same side. So this is your way of forming a common ground. So this is what's cool about this. By doing this, you're going to get a little trifecta here. Not only are you going to form an us versus them, which puts you in a blue ocean, you're forming a common ground, which makes them agreeable and they like you, and you are tackling the largest objection right out of the gate: intent. So if you want to write that down, unless you're going to be going through, take notes on that, you're going to be able to create an us versus them, create a common ground, and tackle the largest objection out of the gate. So how do we do that? Well, first of all, what we want to do is use something like intent to close. I love focusing on intent, because it blows everything out of the water. If they say, well, hey, how do I know these leads are going to convert? That question becomes way less important if you are selling them on the intent behind the leads. Now you just got to make sure you deliver. But if you're using pixel behavior from people who converted, or you're using Google retargeting on Facebook and then create a 1% lookalike audience, these are strategies not too many people are using. And even if some of them are, they're not selling the strategies properly. So you can talk about intent. People who are like in the crazy whatever discount funnels, those people aren't using things like custom audiences and things like that too often. Those people are just burning through really low offers, getting a bunch of leads, maybe even using a lead form ad, maybe using that goofy funnel and then calling it a day. I got them 150 leads and no one converted. So we want to first make a list of terrible objections. Say, well, hey, how do I know these leads are going to convert? That question becomes way less important if you are selling them on the intent behind the leads. Now you just got to make sure you deliver. But if you're using pixel behavior from people who converted, or you're using Google retargeting on Facebook and then create a 1% lookalike audience, these are strategies not too many people are using. And even if some of them are, they're not selling the strategies properly. So you can talk about intent. People who are like in the crazy whatever discount funnels, those people aren't using things like custom audiences and things like that too often. Those people are just burning through really low offers, getting a bunch of leads, maybe even using a lead form ad, maybe using that goofy funnel and then calling it a day. I got them 150 leads and no one converted. So we want to first make a list of terrible objections. So maybe things like they've run Facebook ads that didn't convert, bad quality leads, bad marketer experience. If you go back and watch the video,
some time today that we'd be able to give you a call. It was in regards to taking on some VA loan referrals.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. Okay, yeah.
Would you have some time at about 1:30 that we could give you a call and just maybe take 5-10 minutes to discuss kind of what we got here? We got we'd really like to start sending these to someone. About 80 to 100 VA loan applications coming through per month. These are pretty much veterans who are looking to get pre-qualified to work with a realtor.
Are these Facebook leads?
These are not Facebook leads. We do some retargeting leads on Facebook in general for our company, but we do not get these through strictly through Facebook. It's basically a software that we use that runs across the web based off behavioral targeting. So as these veterans specifically are starting to look at homes, look to purchase homes, we start popping up everywhere, basically showing to fill out a pre-qualification application to see if they're basically looking to work with realtors. That's when we start popping up. So they're in-market leads. Our data is based off in-market leads. So to be clear, we do pop up on Facebook at times, but that's only if they've already taken other actions that would make that happen. So if
I'll
you
be honest with you, man. Let me tell you a bit about what I do in my world, okay?
Sure.
I'm in San Antonio. My book of business was about $25 million last year. 82% of it was VA. Okay, that's what I do.
That's pretty cool, man.
Well, yeah, thanks. But anyway, that is my target audience. I have television ads, radio ads, and other methods of getting to these people that want VA loans. I've spent thousands of dollars for lead programs that ended up nowhere.
Crap.
So I got to be honest with you, I'm pretty worn out from buying leads.
Yeah, no, I hear you, man. And to be honest with you, a lot of it's because there's just a lot of crap out there. The majority of the leads that you've probably purchased were like people filling out PDFs about like downloads and stuff, and them just sending you those leads. The thing that makes this program a bit different is because of the intent that we have behind it, because of the data that we use to collect to get in front of these people. So the intent is much higher. A lot of the stuff that people throw up in front of you, maybe they were going strictly off Facebook. And then what happens is you get these people who don't even remember filling out the form. They're not really interested, kind of crap leads, which you've probably experienced in the past. And I truly believe it's because the majority of people who you've probably spoken to are very crappy online marketers just trying to make a buck off you.
Yeah, and they did make it.
But the information that we provide is they're basically filling out a pre-qualification application that has their credit. That, you know, they put what their credit is, how soon they're looking to buy a home, how the price range of the home they're looking to buy, why they haven't purchased a home yet. You know, they give a lot of information. Usually, a lot of times, the people who are getting leads out there, they're trying to just really quickly get contact info, and they're not sending them through the appropriate amount of steps. So not only do we have a lot of intent based off of what they're searching for, but we also make them take a significant amount of action before we send that to you. Because I'll be honest, I'd rather send you 50 to 80 leads that are all having good conversations with you rather than having sent you 200 people that don't remember filling anything out.
Yeah, obviously.
So, because I mean, if it doesn't work for you, it doesn't work for me. We don't put anyone under contract, so it would be a terrible business model for us to not form relationships with people. Now, I also like to set the proper expectations that, as you know, leads that are coming in, the way that we base the quality is the conversations you're having with people. Because obviously it can take up to 3 months or sometimes longer for something to convert. But the point is that they're actually in market, they're looking for a home, they're working with you, whether it's to find a home or build their credit, whatever be the case. You know, you'll be able to tell by having conversations with these people what the quality of the leads are, rather than, you know, we don't base it strictly off of, oh, well, we closed 10 loans the first month, because that's just not how it works in real estate and mortgage. Things can take a little time, but you will know just based off the conversations you're having with people.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
All right.
So,
I need to sound before I'm listening to you.
yeah, no, I understand 100%, and your time's busy, but so why don't we do this? Because I mean, I think you got a little bit of a vibe of what we got going on here, and I completely can sympathize with the crap that you've probably gone through with Facebook leads, the fact that that was your first thing. However, this is not just a Facebook lead thing. So why don't we do this? Why don't we set up a time this afternoon? He's my partner. He can just really quick hop on and show you the back end so you can kind of see what the leads would look like, what the information coming through would look like, and then we can just put something together to see if you'd like to at least give it a try for a month.
Do I need to be in front of a PC to look at something?
You can be in front of a computer or a phone. It doesn't matter. He'll send you a link, and you can probably view it right there on your phone, because I do a lot of meetings right on my phone.
I'd rather be at my
That's fine too.
What time?
That's preferred if you're at your
What time
desk.
is available?
What works for you? Because I can shuffle his schedule around.
I got a 3 o'clock webinar that's going to last an hour, so I can do. How much time does he need?
15 minutes.
How about 2:30?
2:30 works. That's Central Time, right?
All right. So, do you have my email address?
I do. I have your email address. It's pfitzgerald@guildmortgage.net.
That's it.
Yeah, he'll send you a link here in about 5 minutes.
Very good, sir.
Hey, thanks, man.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
You'll notice that at the 2 o'clock or 2 minutes in, I mean, when the tone really started to change, I started to actually rip on the average marketer. So I started saying things like, here's the problem. A lot of people, they start launching these ads. There's no intent behind it. I started going through and rattling off all of the pain points and the things that probably drive him nuts. And then I even say things like, man, I would rather give you 50 leads that you have great conversations with than 100 and only have 1 or 2 good conversations. So I'm really, really playing off of that intent. And if you rattle off a list of things like, listen, there's a lot of people out there claiming that they can do lead generation for you. But in reality, what they're doing is they're getting people to like download a PDF, or they're filling out really low intent forms. For instance, Facebook lead ads, they pre-fill the data. So people sometimes don't even remember filling out the forms. And then you'll even say there's nothing worse than hopping on the phone with someone who doesn't remember filling out the form, or who didn't really even need your service. It's almost embarrassing. What you're doing is you're playing off their pain points, but you're creating an us versus them in the fact that you're saying, hey, I understand these pains, and that's not what this is. Because if you hate those things and they know you hate them, then that means anything else that you're about to pitch means that that is not what this is, because we are pitching based off intent. Hopefully this is making sense to you guys. So then we can really explain to them why these things do not convert and how it all comes down to the intent. And if you talk about behavioral targeting, like we discussed last week, and you talk about people who are actually in need of something right now, and how those people are going to convert. If you add a little story behind it, as far as, like I said, for the mortgage, they're looking to work with a realtor, then all of a sudden you really start building up the fact that these leads have intent behind them. So defensive to agreeable to on the fence can happen really, really quickly. So you have to set yourself up properly. So what I mean by that is from them being defensive to you getting them on the agreeable to them wanting your service, it can happen real quick. I use intent as the big domino. But in the same idea, it's like, well, if they believe that intent is the way to go and that you are the only way they can get leads with intent, well, then they have to give you money. It's the same kind of idea like that. So now they're ready to receive the information that will get them emotional. So this is the part of the mammal brain, which actually comes right after the reptilian brain. So if you remember last week, we talked about the 3 different phases: the reptilian brain, the mammal brain, and then the neocortex. So now we got to get them emotional in it, and we have to keep gravity pulling and getting them off the fence. So this is a bad time to go back to the beginning of trying to peak their reptilian brain. You don't want to try to keep going back in the process. So sometimes people will keep going back and going back and going back, and it doesn't work. Or maybe now they're ready to get logical and people going back to the emotional phase. And it's like, dude, close the freaking sale. And that's why sales don't close, because they don't give them that call to action. I remember that there was a time when I was buying snowmobile when I was younger, and I wanted it. I loved it. The guy had sold me on all the features. And then it came to a point where we were all standing around it. It was like, so dude, how do I buy this thing? He didn't have a way to walk me through the sale. We want to keep pulling them in the right direction, because right now, if you can get enough momentum moving, then you can get them off the fence quicker. If you don't build up the momentum right here, they could get to that fence and just stop.